This is the Simply Home podcast, Ladies Who Build, a podcast for women by women. This is Ashley Wainscott
and Michelle Mullins. After spending the last 10 years revolutionizing the construction industry and raising the bar of the contracting world, we are inviting you on our journey as we continuously learn how to be extraordinary and thrive in this industry.
Now come hang with us.
Okay, welcome to Season 3, Episode 28 of the Ladies Who Build podcast. We are on the topic of client feedback, the secret to success for any business, really for anybody in regards to business or relationships. So we will talk about some key points is how we get client feedback, how we incorporate the feedback with our team and with our individuals, why it's important, and what is feedback, and like literally how it can make or break your business. So yeah, let's talk about it.
Let's roll, okay. Girl.
How do we get client feedback? What are some ways that we have incorporated over the years?
Yes. So I think one thing that takes a little bit more time to build out, but is so necessary, and I think that there are some platforms that actually do this for you, but collecting surveys throughout the project to actually document all of the feedback. And it's something you can refer back to and share with your team. And then it's kind of neutral, and the client feels like they can answer it without offending anyone.
Yeah.
And they can know that it actually gets passed up through leadership or management if it is positive.
Mm-hmm. Yes. We also, at the end of the project, will meet, we sit down with the client face to face, and we go through, this meeting can typically take between like 30 minutes to an hour, but we go through certain questions to ask them their feedback on the project as a whole. We talk about the sales process, the vendors, the timeline, the budget, all the things. And I always preface it is to say, we want to hear the good, the bad, the ugly, and we don't take anything personally. And so I want to make sure that clients know that, like, hey, I'm not going to go run off and tell like so-and-so that you have maybe had some feedback for them. What we do is we look at this as a whole and how it affects the business. And so we really encourage people to be honest during that time. So it's just a really impactful moment for us as a business and the client to really sit down with them and have an honest conversation of how the project went as a whole.
Yeah. And I was just thinking that if we didn't have these surveys and touch points with clients, that it would be really hard to put ourselves in their shoes, and be empathetic towards what they have going on, because we're just living our experience on our side. And then when we have these touch points, I think we naturally are empathetic to our clients, and we're always thinking about them, but it really allows like a really good conversation where we can put ourselves in their shoes and really hear like, this one thing you did changed my whole life, and it was so great, and I loved it, and it was so positive, or like, this one thing that happened changed my whole experience and then caused me to rethink things. And that's what I love about those meetings.
Yeah. And I think it's good. But it also ties into like our whole foundation of our company of why we wanted to be different and who we are. But another way, which I'll get into in a little bit, but another way we collect feedback is during the weekly on-site PM meeting. We will talk with the client one-on-one. Like, we obviously go over the work and what's to come, blah, blah, blah. But then we really train the team to ask the deeper questions. So not just, how's everything going for you? But, we go deeper, for example, saying, I know this happened last week. How is that setting with you this week now that you've had time to think about it? Or I know this happened the other day. Are you, is everything okay? Or did I explain why that had to happen properly? Or did you still have questions about that? Or even if there is tension, even calling it out to say, I feel that there might be some frustrations about that. Did you want to talk about it right now? I have the time. I'd love to sit down and kind of go through the details. or we can revisit it. So it's a different, our whole way that we look at client relationships is, yes, we are giving you a service that you are paying for, but it goes so much deeper beyond that. And our team really needs to feel comfortable, and we train them to feel comfortable to ask those questions, because when you can get there with the client and you can create that relationship, it literally transforms the project when that communication flow is cleared. Like, you can easily go to the other person and talk about what's going on. I mean, it's like night and day. The conversations and the relationships we have with them are like 10 times better.
Yeah, that honesty and transparency, and then creating the environment where you're open to getting that feedback allows for the feedback.
Yeah.
And when somebody trusts you and they have a good relationship with you, they're going to feel like they can speak up and be honest with you. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's where the real goodness, that's really where the real goodness is, right? It's like right in there. And so we get feedback throughout the whole project, right? We're always talking to clients, and even in ways where we have these weekly one-on-one meetings, but even just throughout our whole process, like specifically on the sales prep and planning side, we're always talking to clients, meeting with clients. And again, we're creating that environment for people to ask questions and to be engaged. And I think it just makes the whole experience better.
Yeah.
Also, we have how we incorporate the feedback, which I think is the other big part, because step one is you have to get it. And then step two, it's like, okay, what do you do with it now? And I think this can be done in a lot of ways. So one of the ways in which we do this is spreading, the positive feedback throughout the team. So when a client is super satisfied, when a client has told us really great feedback, we're always celebrating our wins. And this happens in our internal meetings. It happens throughout the company, which is amazing.
So we'll have like our internal team chat. So if there's, some immediate feedback that we got that's positive, we'll share it with the chat, and it kind of just brings, some positivity to the day. And it's always nice, like when a client acknowledges all the hard work that someone has done or the team has done, because it is like such a labor of love for each project. So when clients see it, we definitely want to make sure that the team feels it.
Yeah. And Michelle, I think we should push for like normalizing, or there being normalcy around giving clients giving project managers even like a small token of appreciation.
Yeah.
Like a little basket. I mean, we treat our clients throughout the whole process, but I think it's always nice. We should normalize that. I think it changes everything, because I think it's different, because I think a project manager is working on your personal home, and so it's already personal for clients. I think we keep it professional, but I just know on our side, like all the times that we've been appreciated or recognized, it changes their life. Getting like a thank you candle or a set of flowers or whatever. We treat our clients, of course, that way. But anyways, I'm putting that out there in the world, because I think that project managers, of course, anybody that's worked on your project, but doing small tokens of appreciation, I think goes a long way.
Yeah. So what we're basically saying, if you're listening to this, we're accepting gifts at this point. So that's what we want to start seeing.
Basically, I'm going to have a tip jar out for myself.
Yeah. I mean, it does.
But long story long, it goes a long way.
It really goes a long way. And like, I don't mean it lightly when we say this is a labor of love. So when people do recognize us, like it really is a big deal. Like that means a lot. In addition to talking about it throughout the team, we share it with the chat. We also do project review meetings once the project closes out. And that's like we meet with the salesperson, we meet with the PMs, anybody who was involved in that project, and we kind of go through it as a whole. Like, how did we do on the numbers? How did we do on the timeline? What did the client have to say? So that's another time we talk about feedback, so everybody can hear it. We also, if the feedback is something that is either consistent or that is a big enough issue, then as an exec team, we would also talk about it in the sense that, okay, does this need to be a systematic change, or does our process need to be tweaked in any way because of this? Or, oh, that's a really good point, we didn't consider that. That's something we should carry forward moving forward. And especially if it's like repeated. So if someone is saying, if multiple different people are saying one thing, then that means that's not a one-off. That's a us problem, right? And so then we might look at it as like, okay, hey, we probably should incorporate this throughout the company as a system change.
Yes, absolutely. That's a huge element of how to incorporate it and how to not repeat it is how are you going to make the changes internally?
Yeah.
I think the next level of it that we had noted on here too is also internally talking about it with team members and noting if it's a problem over and over again, because that becomes a team member or employee performance issue rather than just an issue you're seeing on projects. And maybe you might discover like, oh, this is actually a metric that I need to start measuring for this role because this has become a huge gap in the role or a huge opportunity where we can excel. So that may snowball there too.
Yeah. I mean, all the way around, we definitely don't take feedback lightly. And this kind of ties into like why it's important for us and for our company is it really does change the way that we operate. I mean, and it's not like to say every feedback we've ever gotten, we're immediately going to go change it right then and there, but we do talk about it and we document it. And so we'll say, if it's coming up again and again, should it be something that we change or incorporate? And it's very much like what I was saying earlier, it goes back to the basics of who we are, because we don't want to be the contractor of, well, that's just the way it's been for 10 years. So, and it's worked for 10 years. So get over it. Or my other clients didn't have an issue with that. Right. So we don't want to be the guy that's like my way or the highway. We want it so much to be that the home, you're important, that your home is important, that we hear you, that we listen to you. Because if you've ever been through a remodel or done anything in the construction world, you know that it's a very like non-emotional business, but there is a lot of money at stake, and there is a lot of like your personal home is at stake, right? So it is emotional, like you can't get around it. And so it brings in the emotional aspect of like, we actually see you as human, and like your concerns matter, and we want to hear you. And even if that's not good feedback, that's okay. Like, we don't really look at it as bad feedback. We just look at it as like, how can we grow from this?
Yeah. And honestly, the quote unquote big learning feedback, the bad feedback is that's the good stuff. That's the stuff in which you're really going to grow from. And that you actually need to hear. Because even if a client had a 5-star review and all of these amazing positive pieces in the experience you provided and they loved your service, those little pieces of feedback of how it could have been even better, oh, it's gold. Mm-hmm. It's just gold. Mm-hmm. And Michelle, you hit on something a minute ago, which we have to talk about, but it doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter if you're a client or if you're providing a service or a product, whatever it is. In the end, everybody just wants to feel heard.
Yeah.
Which in turn makes them feel seen. And I think that really applies in how you set up your business for feedback. Because if you're hearing your clients and you're giving them the opportunity to share, then you're creating that space for them, then they feel heard and it automatically feels better. Even if the situation wasn't great, you gave them a space to feel heard and seen, and And everybody feels better like that. And they're not going to go try and feel heard and seen through a lot of their friends by sharing that feedback.
Yeah, that's a good point, because they will talk about it. And so it's like you want them talking about it with you and not blasting it on, social media or on your reviews page. I mean, there have been times where I've gone into closeout meetings to get feedback from clients, and I know it's not going to go well. And I'm like, oh, I'm kind of dreading this. But at the end of the day, what they have always said is, I really appreciate that you guys have incorporated this process in your system, because this is important. And we want to, we appreciate that you want to hear our thoughts on it, because maybe it didn't go well, whatever the case went, however it shaked out, is we're still going to give you that time. Like, we might know what you're going to say, and like, maybe we don't know what you're going to say, but we know it might not be positive, but at the end of the day, we still need to hear it, and it's important. And I will say, like, some of our biggest company changes with our systems and processes has come from client feedback, and it just makes us better in the end. And we're like, oh, you saw that from a client perspective. That's so important to know, because we had no idea that that's what what was coming across, right? Like, that's important for us to know.
Yeah, we can only guess what they want, but until they tell us,
right,
we don't know.
Yeah, like, that's what makes us really great, is because we've incorporated and we've listened to what people want and what people need in their homes.
Yep.
So, yeah, you're right, though. Like, any industry, you have to get feedback. And even if you could get a third party to get it for you, like maybe you were working with that client one-on-one, maybe then get your operations person, or I don't know, project manager, whoever is on your team, maybe that they could be the third party to talk about it with the client. So they're not having to be like, yeah, Ashley, that really upset me when you did that. It's less direct and less personal. It's very neutral if you just have like a third party come in and have that meeting with them.
Yeah. Attack.
Yeah. Your emotions.
She's coming for me.
Doesn't go up. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's way better. I mean, nobody wants to stare at someone else and be like, when you did that, I didn't like that. Or what, especially for the non-confrontational clients, getting somebody else in there is the way to go.
Yeah.
Do it.
They open up.
Yeah. Okay. So the other little things to wrap this up were really, I think, around culture, like making sure that you know what you want to see in these surveys and what you want to measure, and thinking about the space that you create, and, having a culture like ours where we are super transparent, we are open to feedback, we're all about the feedback. We're all about the emotions and the experience of the client. So I would say to incorporate it and build it out so it makes sense for the business, and working with a team or company in any scenario that takes feedback, I think, means that they care and listen. So
yeah,
you might consider that when hiring someone.
Yeah. Well, and that's like a part of our hiring process too, is they have to be growth minded. They have to be, wanting to better themselves. They have to be open to feedback. Because if they are not, they will absolutely not be a good fit, because that is like such a big part of our culture.
Look at us. Michelle and I were just saying, after 11 years, man, do we know client feedback. We have a great understanding around this.
Yes.
And how to accept it, how to receive it, how to incorporate it. We've only learned through experience. So, good luck to you all out there trying to set it up for yourselves or for your business, or if you're looking for a contractor has incorporated this, these are just things to consider.
Yeah. All right.
That's a wrap.
Now that you are hooked to the podcast, you are probably thinking, how can I learn more? Well, sign up for our monthly newsletter to see our newest remodels and the best tips for a stress-free home renovation.
With a few easy clicks, you will get to go even more in depth with us as we go behind the scenes with life, projects, and our team. Go to simplyhome.co or the show notes to sign up. See you next time. Bye, y'all.